Good morning and welcome to this morning's edition of the Vision Root video blog. I am your host, Richard Urban, coming to you from historic Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Today's installment is entitled The War on Christians. Let's get started with our scripture reading from the words of Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Now, let us discover the dividing line between heaven and hell. Is it in midair? Where is it? It's none other than your sexual organ. This is a serious matter. This concept has turned heaven and earth upside down. Who can deny this? This is explained in the chapter The Fall in the Divine Principle, the teaching of Reverend Moon. If you doubt this, ask God. You cannot reject Reverend Moon's divine principle with a content that you could not possibly have dreamed of, all presented with logical explanations and in well-ordered structure. Those who use their sexual organs aimlessly, like a person deprived of good judgment, will be bound for hell. And conversely, those who use theirs according to God's absolute standard of love will be led high up into heaven. This is a clear conclusion. That ends our reading. So this topic, the war on Christians, is a very important topic. And I'd like to give some more insight into what is going on in our society with this war on Christians. And I'd like to start off with a clip from Pastor Hyung Jin Moon's King's Report from this past Monday, July 24th. So let's have a look at that clip now.
Now, on this page, there is in the Patriots Bible, there's a section on freedom, and the censoring of religious activities in public schools. What a hypocritical thing. This is ridiculous. Listen to this. In Supreme Court decisions rendered 1962-63, the inclusion of religious activities such as school prayer and Bible reading in major activities of daily student life in public school was struck down. Okay? It was the first time in the history of the United States that any branch of the federal government took such a stance. Censoring religious activities, long considered an integral part of education. This sudden restructuring of educational policies was precipitated by the court's controversial reinterpretation of the phrase separation of church and state as it relates to the First Amendment, which simply states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof. The court decided that the First Amendment includes a prohibition against including religious activities in public affairs, inviting skyrocketing numbers of lawsuits that challenge any presence of religion in public life. The court had already delivered far-reaching decisions too. Number one, remove student prayer. Prayer in this public school system, quote, breaches the Constitution's wall of separation between church and state, Engel versus Vitale, 1962. Number two, remove school Bible readings. No state law or school board may require the passage from the Bible be read or that the Lord's Prayer be recited in the public schools of a state. At the beginning of each school day, Abington versus Shamp, 1963. Number three, remove the Ten Commandments from view. If the posted copies of the Ten Commandments are to have any effect at all, it will be to induce the school children to read, meditate upon, perhaps to venerate and obey the commandments. This is not permissible, state objective under Establishment Clause, Stone versus Graham, 1980. Number four, remove benedictions and invocations from school activities. Religious invocation in high school commencement exercises conveyed the message that district had given its endorsement to prayer and religion. So the school district was properly prohibited from including invocation and commencement exercise. Graham versus Central, 1985. K versus Douglas, 1986. Jager versus Douglas, 1989. Lee versus Wiseman, 1992. So there you go. They got rid of Christian culture from public school, thereby decapitating the Christian nature of the public education school. Also, with the idea of the Founding Fathers trying to educate children in morals and moral values, and they adopted the cult of relativism. See, they adopted another religion. They adopted the cult of relativism, cult of relativist philosophy. You take away the religion of Christ, well, you have to supplant it with something. And what do? Supplant it with, quote, atheism, agnosticism, but really hostile atheism. They mocked Christianity. And now with the new relativist school, you have the school of relativism in public school.
So you can see in that clip that we have adopted a new philosophy. And some people call it secular humanism, or, you could call it materialism. But it is definitely another philosophy that has been installed. And it is one that is hostile to Christians and Christian religion. Let's look at some recent news events. So recently, Bernie Sanders was questioning the nominee, Russell Vought. He was nominated for the Office of Management and Budget as the second in command. So here's what Bernie Sanders had to say to Mr. Vought based on his belief as a Christian that, he believes in salvation through Jesus Christ. Let's have a look at that clip.
The letter states, and I quote, "We write to express our deep concerns about the nomination of Russell Vought to the position of Deputy Director of the White House Office of Management and Budget. Mr. Vought has denigrated American Muslims and the Muslim faith. His writings demonstrate a clear hostility to religious pluralism and freedom that disqualify him for any appointment, including that of Deputy Director of the OMB." So, for the record. In the piece that I referred to that you wrote for a publication called Resurgent, you wrote, Muslims do not simply have a deficient theology. They do not know God because they have rejected Jesus Christ, his son, and they stand condemned. End of quote. Do you believe that statement is Islamophobic?
Absolutely not, Senator. I'm a Christian, and I believe in a Christian set of principles based on my faith. That post, as I stated in the questionnaire to this committee, was to defend my alma mater, Wheaton College, a Christian school that has a statement of faith that includes the centrality of Jesus Christ for salvation. And
again, I apologize. Forgive me. We just don't have a lot of time. Do you believe that people in the Muslim religion stand condemned? Is that your view?
Again, Senator, I'm a Christian, and I wrote that piece.
Well, what does that say?
With the statement of faith of Wheaton
I understand that. I don't know how many Muslims there are in America. I really don't know. Probably a couple of million. Are you suggesting that all of those people stand condemned? What about Jews? They stand condemned too?
Senator, I'm a Christian.
I understand you are a Christian, but this country is made up of people who are not just. I understand that Christianity is the majority religion, but there are other people who have different religions in this country and around the world. In your judgment, do you think that people who are not Christians are going to be condemned?
Thank you for probing on that question. As a Christian, I believe that all individuals are made in the image of God and are worthy of dignity and respect regardless of their religious beliefs. I believe that as a Christian, that's how I should treat all individuals.
And do you think your statement that you put into that publication, they do not know God because they've rejected Jesus Christ the Son and they stand condemned, do you think that's respectful of other religions?
Senator, I wrote a post based on being a Christian and attending a Christian school that has a statement of faith that speaks clearly with regard to the centrality of Jesus Christ in salvation.
I would simply say, Mr. Chairman, that this nominee is really not someone who is what this country is supposed to be about. I will vote.
So you can see that Senator Sanders thinks that Mr. Vought is unqualified because he believes that you receive salvation through Jesus Christ. But did Mr. Vought say that he was going to discriminate against other people? No. Actually, he just said that's what he believes. And it's interesting that if he had said that he believed in the Muslim faith, I'm sure Mr. Sanders probably wouldn't have bothered to question him about that. So it's interesting, if you are promoting Muslim beliefs, that's wonderful. But if you're promoting Christian beliefs, that's anathema. So we have to look at what's going on in our society and how that's really wrong. And then, as Pastor Hyungjin was mentioning about the interpretation by the Supreme Court in 1962 and 1963 decisions of the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law regarding or respecting the establishment of a religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So people get up on a soapbox and says, we can't have any religious instruction in schools. Of course, they're putting in Muslim, how do you say, activities where you want to wear a hijab and other activities like that. That's supposed to be okay. But of course, you couldn't mention the name of Jesus Christ, or maybe even wear a t-shirt that says, you know, I'm saved by Jesus Christ or something like that. Oh my gosh. So I have personal experience with this kind of thing. So since 2002, I was working in DC public schools with our nonprofit Urban Life Training. And so we were teaching about sexual abstinence before marriage. And also, you know, I was active in the community in my faith as a unificationist, as a follower of Jesus Christ and a follower of Reverend Sun Myung Moon. So then this parent, her son was in our class. What do you say? Not class, but received one of the presentations we had on basically on HIV prevention. Really, basically just factual information about HIV prevention, but emphasizing, you know, that it's beneficial to abstain from sex before marriage. And these presentations were approved by DC public schools and so on. Well, this lady went on the internet and somebody had posted up that I had witnessed to some girls from Eastern High School. And the and I think the girls said they were lesbian or whatever, and you know, or something like that. And I was witnessing to them about God and Jesus Christ. Well, this lady went ballistic. Oh my gosh, this guy can't be in the schools. He believes in Jesus. Oh my gosh. Well, we weren't doing any witnessing in the classroom. We were just teaching about abstinence. But even the very presence of a Christian in the classroom, that was terrible. So she circulated this memo to the principal, and we did keep teaching. And she, one of my nonprofit friends, yeah, I mean, no. The teacher actually gave us that. So I'm very aware of how this works, you know, how they try to kick out anybody who is a Christian. And why might they want to do this? Is it just like they don't like religion or something? No, there's a specific agenda. They don't want a restriction on sexual activity at the core. Think about the reading today from Reverend Moon. What is the divine line of good and evil? It's sexual activity. Okay, so this lady was upset about, you know, that. Well, actually, she didn't want us teaching in the classroom, and she thought we might not be tolerant of homosexuals, although our activity, our what do you say? Not activity. Our presentation didn't include any information about, you know, homosexuality or any comment about it. But just the fact that the lady found out I was a Christian, she figures I shouldn't be in the classroom. Yeah, that's a definitely freedom of religion. Not at all. So I totally get this thing. So if you have a religious faith, it means, hey, you're not welcome in the classroom. We have our religious faith. And our religious faith is secular humanism. Our religious faith is that you don't express any faith in God. Our religious faith is that when it comes to sexuality, you do whatever you want. Well, Christianity puts inhibitions on sexuality. Hey, you're not supposed to be homosexual. You're not supposed to be, you know, attracted to men or women of the same sex. You're not supposed to have sex with children. And guess what? I'm old enough to know that in the earlier days in DC, say approximately, I would say 30 years ago, and that was when I was first living in Washington, DC, more than 30 years ago, approximately 35 years ago, I went to some of the debates in the city council. And guess what? The groups then, one of the groups promoting, what do you say? Acceptance homosexuality was. The Man Boy Love Association. Yes, that's right. I'm sure it's still around. Well, the homosexual lobbyists decided they better put that one under the rug because not too many people are going to think it's okay for older men to have sex with boys. But I mean, that's one of the earlier groups promoting, you know, tolerance toward homosexuality. And how did homosexuality and the AIDS crisis get started? Or not homosexuality, but the AIDS crisis, by men in bathhousing having sex with hundreds of different people. Oh, oops, forgot about that. And what does Christianity say about this? It says flee immorality. What does Reverend Moon say about it? hey, the divine line of good and evil is the sexual organ. Well, hey, and then suddenly if a Christian shows up in public schools teaching abstinence, they're persona non grata. Oh, we got to get him out. So, I mean, and then they make up dubious reasons, even, to try to kick you out of the school system. And I've had personal experience with that. So don't tell me about this, freedom of religion stuff. I mean, what I mean by that is that there is, free expression of religion, not so. The purpose of the First Amendment is to provide freedom of religion, not to restrict it. I assure you, if you were able to query, James Madison, the authors of, the Bill of Rights, then you would find that the intention is to avoid the state establishment of religion. Look at the history of it. The early founders, they prayed in the U.S. Capitol. Hello, Thomas Jefferson, who's infamously always quoted for his, "We must have a wall of separation of church and state," which was written in a political letter to the Danbury Baptist Church, was just that, a political letter. Jefferson worshipped in the U.S. Capitol. So don't tell me about what the founding fathers thought about, not having religion in the public square. Religion was always in the public square with the founding fathers. And that religion was not Muslim or other religions, Christianity. Of course, Muslims are free to worship as they like. But don't make any mistake about it. It's not the equivalent of Christianity. Not at all. Look at the way, women are treated in Muslim countries. Christians support, how do you say, protecting children against child abuse and all kinds of violent evil. That's not promoted in the Muslim faith. In fact, there's a lot of child abuse. And in fact, Muhammad's favorite wife, who was married at age 6, and they consummated a relationship, I believe, at age 9. Hello. So, now, back to the topic of the war on Christians. Yes, so there's a war on Christians, and as Pastor Youngton pointed out, it didn't just happen. It's been going on probably since the early 60s and has been coming in, and Christians need to be vocal about this. And I applaud President Trump. Yesterday, he decided that they wouldn't have transgenders in the military. That's great. Hello, what does a fighting force need transgender people? Why would also you want mixed units of men and women on the front line in combat? That's not going to provide fighting readiness. That's political experimentation at the detriment of the security of our country. So as Christians, we need to start speaking out about this stuff, not just be silent. And then another case of the war on Christians is the recent decision by the, how do you say? It was GuideStar. And our organization, Urban Life Training, is listed on GuideStar. And my whole opinion, GuideStar just went down the tubes with this recent flap over their CEO, who is, oh, sorry, look here. Yes, their CEO, Harold is his name. Yes, I have up on my screen. I'm going to look here. But anyway, Mr. Harold, one of the things that he did, he's basically a liberal activist, and you can see in this picture I'll post here, at him at the Women's March, a very pro-abortion march, and they were using the Southern Poverty Law Center guidelines, which is even liberals recognize that this is basically a group that exists to, if they weren't constantly labeling people as hate mongers, they wouldn't even exist. So who are some of these hate mongers? Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council, an organization that does excellent work. Matt Staver at the Liberty Council or Fund, who is constantly defending Christian groups. These are hate mongers. Why? Because they don't agree with the gay and lesbian agenda. Richard Urban is a hate monger, terrible guy. He doesn't agree with the gay and lesbian agenda. What the heck? Look, I don't agree with the gay and lesbian agenda, but if any neighbor's in trouble, I'll be glad to defend their rights, defend their life and limb, whether I agree with what they believe or not, as far as, whether their, sexual orientation or beliefs. So don't give me a lot of this bullcrap. Some of the most tolerant people are Christians who have values. They're not tolerant of evil, but they will fight for your life and protect and defend you. They'll defend women. They'll defend children. You know, so I mean, that's what's going on in our society. So as Christians, you need to stand up. You need to tell your friends, hey, it's not cool to be homosexual. Hey, it's not cool to be lesbian. You know, guide them in a positive direction. And these people who are trying to label like reparative therapy and things that, you know, where homosexual people want to change to more, how do you say it? Want to change orientation back to, you know, be attracted to the opposite sex. And that happens all the time. Then they should be able to seek that therapy and not be banned by the government. So you can see this is an absolute, you know, war. And at the center of this war, as I said, is sex. Or you could call it, you know, I call it, Reverend Moon calls it absolutely good sex. Or sex, period. But it should be absolutely good sex. What's that mean? Sex between a husband and wife. So who's against, you know, teaching about abstinence? Well, it's not coincidental, and a lot of those people also are tolerant toward homosexuality. It's safe to say that they probably don't have a Christian viewpoint, or if they do, it's a, you know, very liberal, so-called Christian viewpoint. But, you know, I would question, you know, if that's a true Christian viewpoint. But in any case, point is, there are people who would be accepting of these kind of behaviors that are harmful to people, that are harmful to children. So that are harmful to people for the fulfillment of their life goals. So that's why they want to get rid of the Christian ethic. It says you're not supposed to do those things. You're not supposed to abuse children. You're not supposed to have sex with children. Trump has been doing great. There's been over 500, more than that actually, even I think over 1,000 arrests of pedophiles. You don't hear as much about that. So, I mean, there's all kinds of these things go on, and people don't, you know, that have been coming out more and more. So the core issue is really, are we going to have a society that honors sexuality in the context that God created it? The founding fathers were all about God in the public square. What they did not want is establishment of a state religion. Hey, I'm not for establishing a state religion, whether it be my belief or somebody else's. But I and others should have the freedom to practice their religion. And also, you know, schools should be free to teach about religion or, you know, like that. Or to let people have expression of religion in their own ways. They shouldn't be pushing, you know, a particular agenda on people. So that's a real problem. So we've become this hostile, you know, agenda against Christians. And then we have things like crazy stuff like the Southern Poverty Law Center and Guide Star trying to label groups that don't believe in homosexuality as hate groups. That's bullcrap. That's baloney, complete baloney. So they did remove those labels, but they said basically they're still going to try to do the same thing in other ways. And the guy who's ahead of it is activist. Guide Star is a complete bull crunky. I mean, whatever value it had, it's lost my credibility. Maybe I should just remove our profile there. Who, you know, who wants to have a profile at such an activist place where the guy, you know, doesn't have a value system that is aligned with mine and the majority of people's value system, where he's promoting something else. So you know what I mean? So I mean, it's baloney. So okay, so there's a war on Christians. So what you can do? Be aware of what's going on in your schools. You know, consider removing your children from public schools, or you know, if they go to public schools, be aware of what they're teaching in health class. Be aware and lobby for things, you know, that your children have the rights to, you know, join clubs and not be indoctrinated by different people coming through, you know, promoting whatever Islam beliefs or other things, you know, that like that. So there's true freedom of worship and freedom, you know, of religion. Okay, so the war on Christians. I hope this vlog made you more aware. So let's fight for our rights as Christians, and let's make this a nation that does uphold what I call, or what Reverend calls, absolutely good sex, meaning moral sex between a man and a woman in faithful marriage. That will be it is statistically so much safer and better for children, and that's what we need. I am Richard Urban. On the topic today, the war on Christians. I'm happy to come to you from historic Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Until next time, have a great day.